Hey, this is Braxton. We're here in my studio in Brighton. I've got a cup of tea and I'm going to take you through. I've got a cheeky little chocolate orange there as well. I'm going to take you through my track, The Summit, which is out now on Anjunadeep. All right, so the main kind of inspiration behind the track was this spoken word bit, which was written. It's kind of like a short story that was written by my missus. She's a writer.
People still just ask me about the summit.
And it was kind of like...
You want to know what's up there?
It was a lot longer than this, but this bit was just beautiful.
Nothing.
And I kind of took it and I was like, I'm having that.
There's nothing up there.
Putting that in a tune. And then we used...
People think they'll find themselves.
This kind of 11 Labs AI stuff to kind of convert the text to... What I wanted was like a sort of 1920s... sort of mid-Atlantic, sort of American whiskey drinking, cigar smoking voice, basically. And you can use like text to speech to sort of go through and find the voice that you're looking for and then make tweaks on there, sort of thing. And it was, yeah, it's incredible.
On top of a mountain.
And then off the back of that,
the truth is you don't find yourself at the summit.
We get the strings and the kind of the chords and all these kind of like pads and bits and bobs. All this stuff, actually let me show you on here, gets processed sort of independently. So all of the synth stuff goes into one sort of bus, all the low end stuff goes into another one, drums into another one. Actually, let me show you the synth stuff. So here we have like a few different pads and synth lines and things like that. JD990, which is like a proper good 90s Roland digital synth. Everything just sounds like some a Seal record or something. We've got Diva. This patch I tend to use on absolutely everything, and this kind of like the frequency just kind of like opens up as the track kind of gets richer and richer towards that end. I can't remember who made this. Luftrum. Yeah, I use this on literally every single track. It's great. And then that kind of main trancey sort of gated, like LFO Tools just doing all the work on there. It was just like a straight pad. I use quite a lot of saturation. So satin, I tend to use quite a lot. So I'm adding quite a lot of harmonic content, especially on like the top end of those sort of synth sounds. So that gets kind of tamed quite a lot by the compressor on a bus. And then and then boosted again with a bit of EQ. This EQ is just kind of like doing a top and tail sort of thing. So it's sort of just creating that smiley kind of curve on all of the synth sounds, basically. And then bass. So I'm using the Moog for the top end and the Serum for the sub, which is kind of daft, but it works. The Moog is kind of like doing all of the sort of mid to top end of the sound. A bit of another satin plugin again, sent to a delay again to add a bit more width and a bit of reverb for a bit of width as well. And then Serum is just doing that kind of low end. I don't know if you're going to hear that. You're definitely not going to hear that on speakers, but if you've got headphones in, you might hear this. But those two together kind of sound like that. So the low end is just as clean as possible, basically. So just like a simple sine wave, basically. And then another sort of Reese bass sound. Again, just towards the end of the track where it kind of like builds up. That's sort of the most sort of epic bit, I guess. Just to kind of fill out a little bit more width on that bass line. And then all that gets bussed again into this kind of like bus here. We have Track Spacer, which is just doing the side chaining. It's Logic 9, so you can't see unless you solo it. Track Spacer doing the side chaining for the kick. Pultec EQ, which is adding a bit of low end, just kind of like making it a bit warmer down there. And then a limiter, just because that thing goes absolutely berserk sometimes, and yeah, just needs taming a little bit. That's the bass and synth stuff. And then drums. There to there. Again, not much stuff, quite a lot of loops really. Couple of kicks, or a kick and a transient. sort of working separately, so you can kind of like mix your transient a little bit more, so you can choose how punchy you want your kick to be, rather than kind of using EQs and compressors on your kick, or like transient shapers and things like that. You can just kind of like add it in separately and mix it separately, rather than affect the kick too much. The kick, what have we got on the kick? A bit of transient shaping just to cut off the sustain a bit. And then what's that doing? Oh, it's just kind of shortening the first kick, so it's a bit more of a knock and then a throb. Don't worry about it. On the kick as well, I forgot, I've got a bit of EQ. That's just kind of like lopping off all kind of like low end stereo information on the kick. This kick was quite wafty in the either channel sort of thing, so it's just kind of like just shelving that just so it's not there at all. Just kind of, again, just tightens it up a little bit. It's a technical term, I think, by the way, wafty kick drum. And then breakbeats, standard. These I use, I do this thing with transient shapers where I'll use multiple instances of it rather than just using one and like knocking out everything at to like 60%. In my head, it makes more sense to use multiple ones and do like 20% each time, or like 30% or whatever. I don't know. It's probably complete and utter nonsense, but it feels better. These were quite sort of wavy breaks. I can't remember where I got these from. So yeah, the transient shapers just to tighten everything up a little bit. And then we have claps and kind of percussive bits and like just things to make it sound a bit interesting, just weird noises here and there going like all over the place and stuff, just to keep the groove sounding, I don't know, interesting, I guess. And then hats down there, and then all that gets bussed, like I said, into this drum bus here. So we have, actually let's turn these off. Shadow Hills doing a little bit of compression, again a smidge. Kelvin Tone Shaper, this is quite cool, just to add a bit of like punch, especially to that bottom end, just to kind of like add a bit of grit and noise down there. And then what's this doing? Not a great deal really, just boosting the low end, just kind of like, again, adding a bit more kind of tone to that bottom end. But without those, the drums sound a little bit a bit soft, and it kind of like, I don't know, adds a bit more grit without it adding too much, just without just sounding like it's being turned up. And then on my master bus, let's turn all this off. That's without the main things on. Bit of compression, townhouse compressor. Again, not doing a huge amount of compression, just like a little bit. Pultec, I don't tend to use this so much on my main stereo bus anymore. I tend to use it on like the individual sort of groups. But this is just kind of like adding that kind of a bit of like a scooped sort of, a little bit of low end, a little bit of sort of high end sheen. And then these two, Better Maker and Saturn, are just adding a load of top end. So that's how it sounds. Without these two, that's how it sounds. It's kind of like, again, put earphones in, you'll hear it better. But it's just kind of like, I don't know, quite flat. And Saturn's just adding, it's only adding a bit of like stuff up here. I don't think this one's doing anything. Yeah, it's doing nothing. And Better Maker's just adding a bit of width, and again adding a bit of top end. And then I always use, what's it called? Metric AB. This is like a cool way of just sort of getting other people's tracks and sort of like, from a mixing standpoint, just trying to get your track to sound not as similar, but as trying to get the sonics of your track to kind of sit in a similar realm to those tracks. So I'll tend to load up stuff that I love. So there's this perfect tune. I mean, it just sounds so much better than my track anyway, but the low end of this, I really liked. And I think I use this as a reference just to kind of go, let's try and get that kind of like kick and bass relationship that he's got in this track, similar on my track sort of thing. That's a really good tool to be able to play around with, quickly identifying aspects of other people's tunes that just sound great and just trying to get as close to that as possible. Yeah, simple as that. Cool, that is the summit. Thank you for watching. Hopefully there was something in there that was kind of interesting. I'm going to run a little remix competition on the summit now. So if you send me a message on Instagram, I'll send you a link to all the stems. You can download them, make your own version, send it back to me. Maybe I'll play it in a set or in a mix or something somewhere along the lines. I'd just love to hear what you can do with it. So thank you for watching. Hope to see some of you very, very soon. Love you all. Peace out.